on evolution of automation in microbiology. Now, Dr. Rupa Iyer is a clinical microbiologist, founder and CEO of QualiLife Diagnostics, and co-director at QualiLife Brain and Spine LLP, Mumbai. She holds the degree of MD, DNB, FRC PAT UK, and DHA, and has been recognized with the Women Empowerment Principal Leadership Award in 2021-22 by ET Now. Dr. Iyer serves as an infection control consultant to multiple hospitals and is an active member of several scientific and ethical committees, including the Hospital Infection Society, Mumbai Forum, and the Association of Practicing Pathologists. Her vast experience in clinical microbiology and automation brings us a unique perspective of how digital tools are revolutionizing diagnostic microbiology. Welcome, Dr. Rupa. We expect, or rather, we are eager to hear your insights on this particular topic. Over to you, Dr. Rupa.
Thank you, Dr. Bikash, for this wonderful introduction. Can I share my slides?
Please go ahead.
Is my slides visible?
Yes, please go ahead. They're visible.
Thank you to KAHO for giving me this opportunity, especially Dr. Aparna and Akshata, who have been instrumental in getting me out here. And it's also very, I'm honored by the fact that I am in the 99th, presentation of this particular KAHO series that you have been having. 99 is the last two-digit number before it hits the 100. So that also adds to the significance. Having said that, this is coming to my topic. It is in what I'm dealing with is the evolution of automation in clinical microbiology. 25 years back, when we were, residents in the emergency lab in our institution, we used to always look at our colleagues of biochemistry or pathology, and we used to find them having the privilege of using these machines, whereas we were, practically using the manual techniques of doing the cultures onto the culture plates with the streaking methods. And we used to always wonder, wow, it's so wonderful out there for the pathology and the biochemistry, where there are machines who are giving us the results. And it's just put the sample in and you have the values. And I was very, very jealous of them. Soon, however, looking at it, around 2020, I think things changed for us. There were things happening over the last 2-3 decades. And that's what the journey that I'll be taking you through in whatever has happened as far as automation is concerned in clinical microbiology. So what is clinical microbiology? It's a terminology which we are very using it very commonly over the last few years. And it's basically the application of microbiology in clinical setting. I remember while I was a resident, I had gone to the ward one day, and one of the cheeky surgeon, resident told me, what do you do? So I said, I'm the resident in microbiology. And he said, what is the use of your reports? By the time the reports come, either the patient has gone home or they have gone up. And that really hit me hard. And I was wondering, what am I getting into? And that's when I really started thinking that there has to be some importance as far as the reports of microbiology is concerned. There must be some value to these reports. And that's where we realized that we need to interpret the report for the clinical findings. we must understand that whatever said and done, how much of our progress medicine has made, 1/3 of the diseases that affects humans are still infections. So that leads to the major point of having an accurate diagnosis. And of course, if you have an accurate diagnosis, then you will have a specific antimicrobial therapy. These organisms have been there for ages, and we have tried to get rid of these organisms with antibiotics since, say, 1928, from the time that penicillins were discovered by Alexander Fleming. But every time that we came up with a new antibiotic, these organisms have superseded us, and they have had their own mechanisms of defense, wherein they have developed resistance to these antibiotics. The last antibiotic that came up was meropenem, and it came up around 2002. And it's been 23 years, and we do not have any wonder antibiotic as yet. So you will see that there is a huge gap as far as the R&D for antimicrobials is concerned. But at the same time, the organisms have developed resistance, and we are at a threshold of losing the battle to them. So here, the challenges for microbiological diagnosis is that it is a time-consuming process. The organisms have a generation time, that is, they multiply at a particular rate, and the minimum time taken for them to multiply is 20 minutes. So it takes its own sweet time for the cultures to be positive. The other issue is accuracy, the labor required, and of course, the biosafety concern. So in the pre-automation era, we were doing the cultures, like I said, manually. We used to use the microscopes, do the staining. Now the cultures, when they are grown, we put up a battery of biochemical tests to identify what the organism is, and then put up the sensitivity. So it used to be a very time-consuming process. So anywhere between 24 hours to 72 hours was the turnaround time. And we had to depend on the skilled technicians. So this is how, it's a colorful world of microbiology. This is how we used to see all the organisms under the microscope. But still, microscope still holds good. And this is how we do the cultures, the primary streaking, the secondary streaking, and we need to have the isolated colonies, and the colonies are put up for the various biochemical tests, and then the identification, then the sensitivity. So it used to take time. Around 1980s and 1990s, however, we got some hope in the form of the automated blood culture systems. Till then, the blood cultures were done from the bottles. We used to subculture it on a daily basis onto the plates, looking for the growth of the organism. And this was not only time-consuming, labor-intensive, and expensive, because you're losing that number of media, you're using that much time. So and the contamination, the chances of contamination was very high, because every time you open up the bottles, it was exposed to the air, and the chances of contamination was high. So to solve that problem, we came up with the automated blood culture systems. So these were the two players in the market, that is the Bactic and the Bactialert, BioMuro and BD and BioMuro respectively. So that somehow solved our problems as far as contamination is concerned, because it was a continuous monitoring system where it would detect whether there is a growth of the organism. But the rest of the things we had to do manually, that is subculture onto plates, and then further the identification and sensitivity. It was more or less the same thing, except that the contamination was avoided and monitoring was done continuously. It would use either fluorometry, colorimetry, radiometry. Those were the basis by which it would detect the growth of the organisms. There was also, now, identification of the organism was based on the biochemical reactions. So that problem got a little sorted out by BioMuro, which came up with the API strips. So instead of making the media, this was a strip into which you can inoculate the organisms, and based on the permutation and combinations of the positive results, it would give us what the organism is. So it was a semi-automated identification system. how would this improved in the reproducibility and the safety of the systems? And this is how the API 20E looked like, you can see the colors, the various colors which would detect, which would tell us whether it is positive or negative. And practically the negative results were the uniform colors that you can see at the bottom. Then we came up, these were the blood culture systems that are available. BioMiro on the left, this is the BioMiro, this is BACTEC, and this is the newer BACTEC systems for blood cultures. Then around in 2000, we came up with more automation in the form of for the identification as well as for the sensitivity. And these were the VITEC, which was given by BioMiro, and BD gave us Phoenix. Now, one more addition happened, and that was the MALDI-TOF, which uses the mass spectrometry, and it gave us the organisms to the, it gave us a more accurate identification of the organisms, to the extent that now we have started knowing organisms which were never known before. Maybe they were always there, but the identification of by MALDI-TOF has made it more specific, and that has led us to opening the books, textbooks again, trying to find out more information about those organisms, because MALDI-TOF has got a huge database as far as the library of organisms is concerned. There were also the automated colony counters, which would tell us whether the growth of the organisms is significant or not. Also, the gram staining, which was being done manually, was then converted into these machines, fancy machines, which would give us the gram stainings. So there was much more standardization of the techniques used, and much more uniformity that was being achieved. Then there was the integration of the laboratory information systems into these machines, so that would give us what identification we are getting and what sensitivity we are getting, and it was being directly informed to, or sent off to the wards, so that the appropriate treatment could be instituted. So this is how the bacterial identification has, evolved from the biochemical test, then the API, then there are molecular methods. And all these things have the gram stain, our age-old, humble gram stain that we were using, all that, and we have reached a stage of using the MALDI-TOF. Now, what is the current state? The current state is, in 2020s, we have what is known as a total lab automation. And here, in spite of many people saying that in spite of having automation, still we needed a lot of things to be done manually. But now with total lab automation, it has become much more easier. But it has not completely taken away the work of the technical staff. As Dr. Manoj has already mentioned in his slides, that we still need people to, put the samples in, put the media in, put the antibiotics in. But however, the process of getting it done is become much more automated. There are machines to do it. And this utilizes digital imaging, and there is an AI-powered plate reading. So there is a real-time tracking of the plates, whether there is a growth or not. And one can even do the checking remotely. So this has increased the turnaround time or decreased the turnaround time in a huge way, so that the information given out for the critical management of the patients is faster, and it has enhanced the traceability, and of course the errors have reduced. So this is how the fancy, fully automated, setup looks like now. You can see that the plating is done by the machines themselves, the isolated colonies. One can see them, the picking of these isolated colonies for identification as well as for sensitivity. All these has become much, much easier. So this is how the entire lab looks like. And it is something which has happened. And I think in 2014, in Royal Queen's Hospital in US, North America, that was the first installation. And subsequently, there are multiple installations, especially in the European countries, and they are all raving about it. And definitely, the questions about whether it will replace the human labor, that has been answered, saying that it is not going to replace human labor. The human labor will utilize these AI media to enhance the reports. So this is the BD Kestra that Dr. Manoj had shown. So these are the two options as far as the automation for microbiology, that is Copan and Kestra. And also in 2020, one important event which brought one virus, which brought the entire world to a standstill. And that really gave the word PCR as a household word. Everybody knows about PCR. And this PCR is a technique which was there, like when we were students, we were looking at it with skepticism, and we were wondering whether PCR would pick up even organisms which are non-viable and maybe non-significant. So definitely during COVID, PCR became a household name. Not only that, it became a technique or a technology for detecting many, many other organisms. Till then, we were always saying that, oh, it's just a viral infection. But why now we are putting in a word, or we are putting in a name to that virus. We are saying, oh, it's a respiratory syncytial virus, it is H3N2, or it is H1N1 influenza virus. So that is what PCR systems has really made things possible. We also have the PCR, there are the open PCR systems, and there are the closed PCR systems. Now, open PCR was a still cumbersome methodology where, first we have to extract the nucleic acid, then you amplify it, and you have to go through various stages. But now we also have a closed system where you just put in the sample and you get the result. And that is what has been possible, and it has revolutionized TB diagnostics, especially even detecting multi-drug resistant TB. So GeneXpert, and there is something known as a syndromic testing, where one sample put into a cartridge, put into the machine, and the machine will tell you what the organisms causing the disease is. So this syndromic panels is there for respiratory, and it is extremely useful for meningitis, where it is very difficult to isolate the organisms, but at least it is detecting the presence of the organism. And GI panel, where most of the times when we try to retrieve the organisms, it is very, very subjective. It's very difficult to come to any conclusion. We end up growing the non-pathogenic or the commensals. So these techniques, that is the syndromic panels, have been able to pick up the organisms much more rapidly, and much more with, the yield of the organisms is better with the syndromic panels, if at all the infection is there. So there are automations even in the extraction, no more manual method of extraction. So we have automation as far as the nucleic acid extraction is concerned. And of course, what I mentioned about is point of care molecular diagnostics in the form of CBNAT, TrueNAT. So all these things are now available for us. So this is the nucleic acid extraction method machine. This is the GeneXpert that I was talking about. Just put the sample into this cartridge and put into the machine. And within 1.5 hours to 2 hours, you get the report. So before, when we had to wait for a report, especially for TB, the culture results used to take at least 42 to 45 days. And now we get the result within a day, and crucial time is saved for the management of patients who have multi-drug resistant tuberculosis as well. This is the BioFire that I was talking about. Now we have much more fancier machines than what was this was available some a decade back, but now we have fancy torch machines where the cartridge with the specimen, whether it is stool, whether it is sputum, whether it is, so there is a pneumonia profile, CSF, precious CSF, even joint infections nowadays can be picked up. What infections are responsible for the joint, especially post transplant, those can be also picked up with the help of this machine. So this is what I was talking about, the BioFire film array. So where this is now known as the torch machine. So this has made life pretty easier for us microbiologists. So AI and machine learning integration has made automated colony recognition. There is a predictive analysis of the antimicrobial resistance, which is a huge problem. And there is a AI-based image interpretation. And of course, there is integration with the cloud-based systems. So there is a beautiful amalgamation of the machines and the artificial intelligence, and that has made life pretty easy for us microbiologists. And we have been able to make some value to the reports that we are creating. And no more I can always now look back at the cheeky surgeon and say, look, we have better options available, and the results that I'm giving you are the best results. So what are the benefits of automation? Of course, Dr. Manoj has already mentioned, it has reduced the turnaround time, it has increased the accuracy, and of course, there is a standardization. The biosafety concerns are also reduced. So, so now we have enhanced biosafety, and there is an improved lab workflow and throughput. There are challenges, however. There is a initial high cost, especially, the ones that when Google Baba told me that the cost of a Copan, a total lab automation is around 43 crores. So that is something that one needs to really look at whether it's possible. And plus, of course, we need the space also to put up that big setup. So, so these are the challenges, and of course, maintenance and calibrations. And of course, there has to be a training and a skill development. So, which means that we still need people to run this machines. And the most important thing is there are times that I'm looking at the plates and trying to identify the organism with whatever knowledge or whatever experience I have. I'm a little worried whether I will be over-reliant on automation and lose out on that particular skill of mine. So that is something that I'm concerned. And that's something I think it's going to be inevitable, because there is always a risk of over-reliance on the machines. So what are the future trends? There are AR-driven diagnostics and digital microbiology, personalized treatment. If you know the rapid susceptibility testing results, there is an integration with the electronic health records. And of course, there are greater use of nanopore sequencing and CRISPR diagnostics. So there is a lot happening in genome sequencing, which can make things even more easier and faster. And we'll be able to, have targeted therapy for every patient. So a tailor-made therapy for each patient, because the clinical response of every critical patient will vary, and that if we can predict, and based on that the treatment can be given. So these are very exciting times for us, and I'm looking at the future with lot of wonder. So this is how the genome sequencing. So to just look, it's a handmade machine, and it's hand. You can hold it in a hand, and you can still get the results from it. So these are the various machines that are going to be available. Now, I just thought that let me just go through one case. Like this is a case that one of my colleagues had shared. So here was a 77-year-old female who came with fever, chills, and loose stools. So she was a case of myelofibrosis, and she was on medication. And there was iron overload, which was also being taken care of. She was a hepatitis B positive patient, and she had undergone multiple blood transfusions. So her CRP was high, WBC counts were high. Of course, we are suspecting that there is infection. Now, when we grow the culture, it's very difficult to tell whether it is Campylobacter. So we have MALDI-TOF, which has actually identified it as Campylobacter coli. So based on that, when the first episode of the diarrhea happened, Campylobacter coli was grown, and she was given 5 days of azithromycin. The second time when she had a similar episode, there was no growth, and piperacillin-tazobactam was given. Then again she came back for the third time, and this time we did the syndromic approach that I was talking about, the BioFire multiplex panel, which came negative for all the organisms. So she was given meropenem. So azithromycin, piperacillin-tazobactam, meropenem. So she has progressively gone towards the higher antibiotics. However, genome sequencing picked up the organism to be Helicobacter pseudomonas, which was also grown in the blood. And the only antibiotic that needed to be given was a simple doxycycline, and the patient responded. So these are the answers that we got because of the assistance of the technology. So in conclusion, automation has revolutionized clinical microbiology. It has enhanced the patient care through precision and speed, and continuous innovation is the key to addressing emerging challenges. So this is how the laboratory automation, so we used to do standardized inoculation, lab activity tracking has reduced the incubation period, and lean activity reduced the turnaround time. There is simultaneous reading of cultures, automated negative reports. Because of this, there is a proper treatment given immediately. There is reduction of the mortality, and there is improvement of the infection control, and also improvement in the antimicrobial stewardship programs. So what has laboratory automation done? It has increased the productivity to about 90%, whereas the cost has reduced by up to 47%. And the annual laboratory savings has gone up to 1.2 millions. And there is a mean reduction of the turnaround time of 14 hours. So it is a future goal that instruments from different suppliers could be connected in this network. We can talk to each other to deliver rapid and optimized results for the benefit of the patient. These are the references that I went through, and the peek into the future shows an exciting journey of large-scale innovations to meet up the emerging challenges to address the tails of mysterious infections. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Rupa, for that a very enlightening talk. Your presentation vividly showcased how automation in microbiology has evolved from culture-based techniques to advanced molecular platforms, and perhaps in the future, not future, in fact, AI is already there, but what now the buzzword is Gen AI, the third generation AI, and it's already there. And I'm sure we'll see more changes. And it's particularly fascinating to see how automation is just not about efficiency, but also enhancing diagnostic accuracy, which you just mentioned with your last case example, infection control and clinical decision making. So it's an all-round development, and not just biochemistry, also microbiology. And thank you. And